best advice?
As I mentored the youth and young adults, I also think about my own self. And I realized that what truly was important to me is finding my IMP, IMP. But actually it means just three things. The first is your identity. The second actually is meaning. And the last one, P, is purpose. If let's say it's grinding for that house, you get a house, get out of the grind. Right? But if let's say you're grinding because you truly love it, whatever you're doing, then yeah, you'll be happy grinding, right? End of the day really is to find your imp that will probably stand you in good stead for your career.
Welcome to the Rogue L&D Hot Shots podcast, a short podcast allowing you to meet some of the brilliant folk driving people performance and development forward in an informal and human way. My name's Tom Bailey, award-winning L&D leader and passionate maverick for all things development. Join me as I ask just 10 questions of some of the industry's most innovative and interesting people. Tell us about yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Lucas. So for myself, I'm very passionate about curating and facilitating exceptional experiences for people. I'm a former airport terminal planner and technology product manager. And I've also gotten my own certifications for design thinking, and I'm a design thinking practitioner, facilitator. And really, I do hope that in the work that I do to make an impact in people's lives. On the side as well, I believe strongly in mentoring, and I do play my part in that by mentoring a couple of young people. So hopefully, raising up the next generation well. What really, gets me going is people. I really, really want to, make an impact in people's lives. And I think by doing so, it's not just about giving them everything under the sun, but really to understand what are their needs and their pain points and how might we really improve their lives. And that's where the design thinking aspect, comes in very handy for me. So that's where I leverage and draw a lot down on to be able to leverage that to then think about ways to improve people's lives and experiences.
What are you passionate about?
All along, I've been very, very, interested in content curation. And that, of course, it started out, way back when I was still in school, actually, when I did a lot of traveling. My parents, they brought me overseas. And I started to do a little bit of travel blogging, a bit of itinerary, putting together itineraries for trips and all. And, that kind of got me excited. Along the way, as I started to develop programs for the airport as well, as we were selling them to external corporates and clients, that also then triggered within me this, I would say, this shift to say that, hey, actually, if we're developing content, who are we really developing it for? Actually, end of the day, it's the people, right? And that's actually where I found, my passion and my calling, that how might I really improve the lives and experiences of people, be they whether they are external stakeholders or whether they're internal employees and stakeholders.
What's the best L&D you've seen?
Best one is not so much a specific campaign, but rather I think it's the active role modeling by leaders, right? You can have the best thought of campaign, the best content available, but people don't buy it because if the leaders, the top management are not role modeling, and we frequently talk about the importance of role modeling, even as as teachers to students or whether it's parents to their kids, it's the same, right? When it comes to your company as well, you do need to have your top brass, the senior management, really living, walking the talk, living out, what they are trying to put forward. And that's when it gets people excited. It gets people, really like on board the whole thing and say, yeah, I can see what you're doing is for me, but it also interests you enough to know that, it is for the whole company. It's not just for the employees, it's also for top management and senior leadership. So my team was actually organizing a day event around mental well-being. And we really wanted to help our people, firstly to start being more aware about these things and then starting to also skill them up in the skill sets to be able to engage their reportees and engage their peers on this, right? Actually, very importantly, we decided to organize a fireside chat. And that was actually attended by, and some of senior management actually came in to speak. So I was moderating that, and some of them actually sat in as well in the audience. So I thought that was very powerful because it shows, the buy-in and as well as the support. It's not just something that, you talk about, but it's something that you want to play a part in. That's why some of them were in actually talking to me in the fireside chat. Some of them were in the audience sitting there. I think that shows, that it's something that, we care about and something that is important to us as a company.
Favorite hand gesture?
My favorite hand gesture, I'd say it's the Korean heart. Why that's my favorite is because I think if you do this, you really have to feel that love and that genuineness, right? You can't just do this and be like an angry person and pissed off and all. It's quite hard to do it. So I think if you do this, you're naturally feeling a bit lighter, a bit happier, a bit more loving. I think I think love is very important.
One thing you didn't learn.
But when I first joined Changi Airport Group in 2015, I was actually part of the airport terminal development team. So I was looking at planning for and opening a brand new international terminal, which is Terminal 4. So if you visit Singapore, do pop by. And it's quite cool because a couple of us in the construction and planning and design team, we actually have our names in the terminal itself. So our names are engraved there on one of the walls. It's a little story I can tell my kids next time. So yeah, one thing I learned I didn't know at the start was really about how to look at really technological setups. So I was part of the team that managed the onboarding and of our biometric self-service vendors. At that time, we brought in a biometric vendor from France. We brought in a self-backdrop vendor from Australia, actually. You might have heard of them. They were formerly called ICM Technics. Then they were bought over by Amadeus. Yeah, so managing this project meant that I had to get to understand a bit more about technical setups, about cloud infrastructure, server setups, talking about firewalls, talking about middlewares and cabling routes and all that. And yeah, it was pretty fun just to get to know all these different things. You learn about system resiliencies, you learn about different levels of service. And yeah, it's very different from what I studied, but I got better at it.
Proudest moment?
I think my proudest moment to date really happened in the last 2 years or so. So I think when we met in Australia, I just came in about a year in developing and curating programs. Previously, no experience doing that. I told you I was doing airport planning, right? So I was developing terminals, looking at passenger flows, technological systems, and so forth. But I always had a soft spot for content, as I shared earlier. So when I had the chance to actually trailblaze some of these learning experiences, I took it. And yeah, that was a proud moment because, I could actually develop content around areas that I had experience in, expertise in, and be able to facilitate and run these programs, not only for corporates, but even for students as well. So we work a lot with the schools, the universities, the MBA, EMBA students that do come by. And this baby has grown over the last couple of years since we last met. We are generating a healthy revenue for the company as well. And although I have shifted, to looking more at the people side of house at the moment, this project, I've handed over to another team to continue taking it to further heights. But yeah, very, very happy to do that.
Worst experience in L&D?
I'd say is actually then the flip side of what I shared earlier, right? On the best experience is that when there is no leadership support and buy-in. And I've not been part of that, but I've seen it happen in different companies, in some of my own, as an employee of my company as well, for some other learning programs led by other teams. It is true that, without the leadership support and management buy-in, you can run programs, you can run roadshows, you can run workshops and all that. But your traction is not there, right? And if the traction is not there, people, those who attend might not be in the moment. They might not be truly, listening to what is being shared. They might not be taking away the essence of what you're trying to impart to them. And that is then where it becomes ineffective, right? And it's kind of a waste of time. Again, back to, how to design L&D experiences, I feel that it is very important to always ask back to the user, right? What's in it for them? What's in it for me? And if you don't see anything in it for you, and of course, management is not showing that support that you need, then there is really no incentive, no motivation at all to go learn something, to go, skill yourself, because there's just no support and no incentive.
Best celebrity moment?
For me, I think my most memorable actually came off the airport. So I actually met David Beckham. So yeah, I think you know who he is. He is pretty famous, yeah, but he's very humble, he's very down to earth, and he has a lot of tattoos. I could just like look at his arm and it's like covered, right? But it was quite cool because, you know, I just asked him a question about, you know, how he found Manchester United doing, because I still remember, I think it was last year that I met him, and Man U weren't doing too well. They still aren't doing too well at the moment, which is a bit sad. And he said, you know, he loves the club. He loves, he will love Man U no matter what, you know, whether they're going through a rough patch or a great patch. But yeah, I think it was really, really cool meeting him, because he was just very humble. He was telling me a little bit about, you know, how he enjoys cooking as well. And then, you know, after that, I watched the Netflix documentary on him, and you know, it shows him in his kitchen, in his element and everything. And like, wow, pretty cool guy. And very talented, of course, insanely talented.
Something you believed but nobody else did?
With any project, right? I mean, it can be L&D, it can be airport planning, it can be anything else. There are times where you get a sense that, you know, your teammate is perhaps not on the right track. I found it useful always then not to directly address the problem all the time. Sometimes it's okay to address it directly, but I found it useful when we bring it back to the user at the end of the day, right? And how to bring it back to the user is perhaps to suggest, you know, conducting a focus group, an interview, to truly understand what the user is going through, who the user you're targeting, what he or she is hoping to get out of that project, and whether or not whatever solution they're designing actually meets the needs of the user. It can be an L&D, you're designing a program, a workshop for a certain group of users. But do you truly understand what they need, what they're lacking, what the skill gap is, what the knowledge gap is, and how do you close it, right? So sometimes it's great to, you know, address it head on. Sometimes it's better to just say, hey guys, why don't we take a pause? Let's maybe go speak to some of our users, find out from them, test the ideas with them, and hear from them, because it's a lot more likely your teammate will you know, be more open to hearing something that the user is actually telling them, rather than something that's coming from within the team, because, you know, they might say, hey, you know, who are you to tell me this, right? But if the user is telling you that, and that's who your customer is, you better listen.
Best advice?
As I mentored the youth and young adults, I also think about, you know, my own self. And I realized that what truly was important to me is finding my IMP, IMP. So IMP sounds very cheeky, right? IMP. But actually it means just three things. The first is your identity. I think it's very easy to lose your identity at work. And it's very important, first and foremost, before you even jump into any role, jump into anything, you should know who you are. Does this role, you know, go against your values, go against your morals? Is it something that you cannot live with, right, by doing it? So identity is very important. The second actually is meaning. Is there meaning to the work that you're doing? If you find meaning in the work you're doing, actually every day is a good day. It might not be the best day, but it's a good day because, you know, you're making impact in people's lives, you're creating some meaning for them, you're creating value for them. And the last one, P, is purpose. Why purpose? Is because as a young adult myself in the past, you know, people have always asked me, why don't you, you know, join another industry, or why don't you, you know, why didn't you become a lawyer? Why didn't you become a doctor? You know, with good grades, you can technically go to any course, right? And then that really boils down to your purpose in life. What are you trying to do? And your purpose doesn't have to be a long-term purpose. It could be a short-term purpose as well. Especially so when it comes to some of the younger people I mentor. A lot of them always ask me, what is work-life balance? I'm sure you get this question all the time as well. How do I manage work-life balance? And what I usually share with them is that it's back down to what you're trying to get out of your job, your purpose, right? If your purpose is, in the next 3 years, I want to earn enough money to buy a house, to buy a car, to get married, whatever, and you need to work really hard to get that, you know, go through, put in the hours, then you have a goal in mind, you have a North Star. But if your purpose really is, I want to grow, I want to learn, and money maybe is not so important, then yeah, you know, go ahead, chase that, find your purpose. So there's no right or wrong, right? Work-life balance is something that you have to seek out yourself. You have to determine what is that fine line. And it's getting very blurry today. I think you'll realize as well with our smartphones, with our connectivity to the internet and everything kind of seems instantaneous. So finding your purpose, knowing what exactly you want out of your job, whether it's the 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, whatever, knowing that actually gives you that, I would say that anchor to be able to then take things as they come. It's very easy to get disillusioned when, you're just grinding nonstop, and then you're asking yourself, so what am I grinding for? If let's say it's grinding for that house, you get a house, get out of the grind, right? But if let's say you're grinding because you truly love it, whatever you're doing, you truly are learning a lot, then yeah, you'll be happy grinding, right? So end of the day really is to find your imp, your identity, your meaning and purpose. And I think that will probably stand you in good stead for your career.
Thank you to our guest and to you for listening. If you want to boost the impact of your organization's people development practices, I'd love to connect. You can find me at thomasbailey.co. Alternatively, you can look me up on LinkedIn.